Hey guys, welcome back to RGR Football on YouTube. This is Daniel Harms. And for those of you that aren't already subscribed to the channel, click that sub button right there, right below the video on the right. And right next to that's the bell notification. If you want to get updated on everything that Ryan and I do up to the very minute it gets posted to the YouTube channel, go ahead and click that. And it'll, like I said, it'll give you email notifications. You'll get updated right to the very point that we put those videos up. So everything that we do goes right up. You get notified. So bam, just like that. And then, you guys can find me on Arrowhead Guys. I do all of my writing over there right now. And you can find all of everything that I've ever written on Google. Just put my name up there next to Arrowhead Guys, and it should pop up just about everything I've done. You could also just go to the site arrowheadguys.com and do the exact same thing. Find everything that I've done by clicking on my name. It should just pull everything up. So last week we started a whole video segment on the backup positions, and looking at the depth the Chiefs have at different positions. And it was defensive end last week. You guys decided that I talk a bit too much, so we're going to go ahead and jump into this week's, and it's the running backs. And what we're going to do is we're going to debut a little bit of a new thing here. And I'm going to do a little bit of a video montage to start off with. And that's what we're going to just go ahead and do right now. We've got some clips of the backup running backs, the Daryl Williams, Darwin Thompson, and Deandre Washington. I'm not entirely sure which two are going to be 3 and 4, but I have a very strong opinion that Daryl Williams should and will be the backup running back. So we're just going to start off by looking at some of the Deandre Washington's clips from the Raiders. And, you can see that he's got some burst, and when he gets through the hole, that's what we're really looking for, is getting upfield and trying to run guys over. So he's got some ability to get through the hole, and when he actually does, he's a much better running back than I've seen on tape when he's not getting through the hole. When he's behind line of scrimmage, he does a little bit too much here and there, and that can really dissolve him of being effective. And he's also got a pretty good pass protection profile. He knows how to go low on guys and how to get defensive ends to the ground. And this is one of the more impressive runs that he had last year, obviously behind Josh Jacobs. He's not going to get a bunch of touches in the run game, but he made some of them count. And this one was a really good one, finding that hole on the left side cutback lane, and then making some guys miss with their arm tackles and getting back out into the open field. And that's when you're going to see him. Guys will catch up to him. He doesn't have true breakaway speed, like I think most of the running backs on this roster do or don't. And then we're going to look right at Darwin Thompson, second year out of Utah State, and I think that Darwin probably has the best profile to do some of the things that Clyde Edwards-Helaire does. Maybe not like a lot of the exact same things per se, but I think that if we're talking from a patient standpoint, behind line of scrimmage, getting to the outside, and then getting upfield and trying to manipulate the second level a little bit, he does have a little bit of that. And then he also has some athleticism here. He's going to jump this defender. And that's something that I think goes a little bit unknown, just because it's hard to see what a backup running back can do in limited snaps. He didn't get a lot of snaps last year, and obviously he was active for the playoffs, but that was in large part because LaShawn McCoy was ineffective and Daryl Williams got hurt. He didn't play all that much in the playoffs either. So he's got a profile that will allow him to, I think, produce in the instance that either Daryl or Clyde Edwards-Helaire gets injured. He's obviously got some hands out of the backfield. He can make guys miss in space. And, he is a little bit smaller, which I think tends to lend itself just to that, just being a little bit, I guess the word I'm really looking for is, we don't really know how he's going to hold up in pass protection. He's not, he's the same height as Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but Clyde is a much thicker back. So we don't really know to this point, but he could get better, and I'm assuming that he's going to throughout the season. So I think that what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just see Daryl now, who's going to be the backup, I think, this year, and he's got some pass catching chops out of the backfield, which I didn't really anticipate coming into last year. I thought that he was really more of just a power get downhill kind of guy, and he showed a much more well-rounded skill set than I think that I was expecting. Being able to make guys miss in space and use his vision behind him to make the same guy miss again, which I thought was pretty cool. And then the physicality in getting into the second level and trying to run guys over, which is what I initially thought that he had a more just the type of his build. He's a bigger guy. He's actually around 6 foot, and I think he's 5'11", if I'm not mistaken. He's more like 220, so he's a big guy, and he can run guys over. And then this is one of the more impressive things that I saw from his entire tape in 2019, and this the over the shoulder catch. He's just gonna do a really good job of just getting this wheel route up, and the linebacker's got no chance, and he's able to locate that football pretty well. And that's something that is really going to help him in this offense. I think they can utilize those wheel routes, to their advantage a bit more in this season. And I'd like to see them do it more because they were able to, use those against the Patriots in really back-to-back years to help put up a lot of points with Kareem Hunt out of the backfield. So I think, it's definitely an area that they can look to improve on. So before we get into the actual breakdowns of themselves, like I said, I think that the hierarchy myself is going to go Daryl Williams, and I would assume that Darwin Thompson is going to be next just because of his experience in the system, and then Deandre Washington. Now, those two are pretty much going to be like 1 or 3A and 3B. There's not really going to be much separation between the two just because Deandre's got that experience in the NFL. He's played for 4 years. This is going to be his 5th year. So I'm going to look at him just because he's got the most actual NFL experience out of the 3 backups. And we saw this clip from the all-22 angle where you can see everything, but I want to show you just what I'm talking about in terms of him getting through the hole and then being able to manipulate. So this play starts off, and the Raiders are much more of a zone run scheme based, just like the Chiefs do. They run a lot of outside and inside zone, and you can see them actually pulling the center here, which is really more of a power move, and he gets down to that linebacker. And then here, he's got to get through here, which is his big thing. That's where I think that most of his production can come through. If we're talking about this hole right here. He's not great at manipulating space behind the line of scrimmage and using patience and that kind of thing. So this is really where I think that his ceiling comes through. If he's able to get through the hole, and then he's at his best and he can get into space and start making guys miss. So using that acceleration that he's got to go all the way through the hole, make guys miss. And right here, he's going to go ahead, and you see this, the corner does a really good job of keeping himself square to the inside and forcing Washington to go towards the outside. But Washington does enough right here just to make him, buy himself a little bit of time to get through that space he has, and then he just uses his physicality to get into the end zone. And this is, like I said, it's a really good showcasing of what he does when he gets through the hole. When he's at his best, he's able to manipulate guys in space like this, like I said, the corner right here. And then again, a guy is coming off a block, and he's just going to run him over and kind of spin off and into the end zone. It is where he's at his best. All the plays that I've seen from him, being able to make guys miss and use his athletic ability, jump cuts, and all that kind of stuff is after the line of scrimmage. And I'm not really that high on him in terms of with his patience or getting to the ball to the outside. He seems to be more of I want to run north and south if at all possible. So between the tackles is really his comfort zone, and being able to get into a hole early and then burst through it is his strength. So this was actually one of the more impressive runs that he had from 2019. And I think that potential really fits itself well to this offense. With the zone run scheme, he's going to have to be a little more patient, but through all that, he can figure it out, and it's going to be able to help if guys go down with injuries. But the big reason that they brought him in is it's not to run the football; it's to be a third down back. He's got pass catching ability, and he's actually a pretty decent route runner out of the backfield. Here we're going to see a route that Clyde Edwards-Helaire specializes in. It's that angle route. You get to manipulate that linebacker, and even though he doesn't create a whole lot of separation, the linebackers obviously in the NFL are much faster than I think a lot of people think. When we're looking at college football tape, and we see the angle routes on a lot of these linebackers, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire is making a huge amount of separation. He's just going like 10, 15 yards down the field. It's not always going to be like that, especially in the NFL, even though he's able to create separation, unlike most of the running backs in the NFL at that. But, Washington's got that ability to run routes out of the backfield, pass block, and catch. He's got soft hands. So I like the addition to this offense, and he's going to be able to come in and make some plays in the event that someone gets hurt. And now we're going to talk a bit about the guy that I think has the best skill set to take over, not necessarily in Clyde Edwards-Helaire's absence, but he has more of the patience that I'm looking for in a running back. And it's not a bad thing. It's not anything against Daryl Williams or anything. I love the skill set he provides, but this is what I'm talking about. You know, he uses his size to his advantage, and he's just going to wait this out. Maurice Hurst right here, number 73, is just waiting for Thompson to make a move. And he's just gonna wait it out, and he does a very good job of making the most of what he's got. He waits behind the line of scrimmage until a hole comes up, and then he's gonna burst through it in between, LDT and Mitchell Schwartz. And then as soon as he gets into the second level and he sees guys coming, he wraps up the football. And that's one of the things that I like about him. He's conscious about what he's doing and how he can make it the most effective. He's not the type of guy that carries it like a loaf of bread, like LaShawn McCoy, who's just kind of out there willy-nilly with his arm and doesn't necessarily care about where the ball is. And this is, right here is really the point that I like to make with him is just that patience. He kind of gets lost. A lot of these defenders probably don't know where he is, because you can see this guy right here, look behind. He couldn't see where he was. He lost him in the shuffle here. And I think that he does a good job of using that to his advantage, like I just mentioned, and being able to get lost behind the offensive line, because obviously they all tower above him, and then being able to get into the second level and make something out of nothing, which is something that we've seen a lot from guys like Kareem Hunt in the past, and even Jamal Charles, being able to create something out of nothing. And that's something that Clyde Edwards-Helaire does very well. And I think that Darwin's got that same kind of ability, just maybe in a different way. This is actually another example of his patience and combined with his vision. And you're going to see a lot of these snaps out of the shotgun are going to use running backs with their shoulders square. And this is really good job of him bouncing it to the outside, which is something that I don't think Deandre Washington or Daryl Williams do very well, is looking to the outside and finding those spaces and getting it, using their burst to get outside. I don't think either of them are very comfortable doing that. But one thing I want you to look at here is Von Miller, who, obviously 58 out here as a defensive end. Well, he's going to flash to the outside, and then he's going to come back inside, which I think that he sees this hole opening up. The same with 51. They're both going to kind of come back this way. And as Darwin Thompson is looking to take the ball, obviously he's got his eyes here, as does Mahomes, but he's going to see all of this develop. And that's what he's going to be able to use to his advantage to get to the outside, because in a split second, he's going to make that decision to bounce it from where he's at to that A gap, and then outside to the C gap, and then get upfield. And that's definitely something that Daryl Williams and DeAndre Washington struggle in doing, is finding those extra lanes to the outside to get 10, 12, 15 yards and in bunches. And this is a really good example of Thompson's ability in the run game. And I think that he could see, some work in the run game this year if they're not comfortable with Clyde being the full-time guy, especially with how we assume injuries are going to be this year. It's a really good showcase, an opportunity for Thompson to showcase his skill set. Because I think, like I've said, it's something that he can do in this offense and actually be very productive in doing so. Now we're going to go to the backup. And the Chiefs currently have a 1-2 punch at backup with LSU running backs. They've got Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 1 and Daryl Williams at 2. And like I've said before, he's got an all-around skill set, but I think this is really where he's going to make his impact felt the most. And I've talked about his willingness to not really get it outside, to really run between the tackles. And the Chiefs used quite a bit more power run plays than they usually use. They use a lot more zone, and they use a lot more power, especially on the goal line with Daryl Williams. But power meaning that more than one, or someone's pulling. In this case, it's going to be Andrew Wiley, and then when Kelsey decides he's going to stop, he's going to come around too. And the idea, obviously, is to get more guys on one side to block for all the defenders. And it's on the goal line, so I think that Chargers are expecting them to run the football. But this play really resembles a lot of the things that I want him to do on a regular basis, and that's be patient. Because right here, you have to wait for your blockers to develop, and you see that he's going to use his patience a little bit here. This defender flashes to the outside here. Even though Kelsey's coming around, he's going to then stop, and this is going to force both a linebacker here and a second level or third level defender from the Chargers to over pursue. And that's going to allow him to cut back inside to this B gap that is moving from right to left and create arm tackles and get into the end zone. And it's something that he needs, like I said, to do more of, is be patient and use that vision. And it's not necessarily a second level manipulation on his part, but the scheme itself with the pulling of the guards forced the overcommit from the defenders, and that he uses it to his advantage to get into the end zone to create those arm tackles and then bowl guys over. And that's something that is going to benefit him if he continues to use that in his overall game, because the patience that it takes to wait for blocks to develop is the same for the pullers to come around, is the same as waiting for blocks to develop in a zone scheme, whether that's the cutback lane or it's like we saw in the Darwin Thompson film of him waiting down the line and just waiting for that hole to pop up. And if Williams can insert that into his game, he's going to become a more well-rounded back than he already is. And this is what I mean by the well-rounded part. We saw it earlier in his montage, and it was one of the most impressive things I saw from him this past season. He caught a couple passes where he was wide open, but this one he's covered by a linebacker, and he's just going to stop on a dime, cut back to the inside. And then he's going to make him miss again by committing to the outside and then cutting back inside. It's just a really fun play for me, because you look at this guy. He's a really stocky guy. He's got broad shoulders, and then he's just, got some soft hands. He displayed that a lot this year in his ability to catch passes out of the backfield, like we saw in the montage with his downfield passing prowess, as well as in the screen game. He created a lot of big plays and first downs on screens this past year. And you combine that with his ability to get into the end zone from the goal line, and I really like his skill set to produce in this offense. Obviously, Andy Reid does an exceptional job of scheming running backs open and just getting production out of their running backs, and that's not going to stop with Daryl Williams if in the case that Clyde goes down. So I think the Chiefs are really set up well at the running back position to handle injuries. They've got some other guys like Elijah McGuire behind them who present a lot of the same type of skills with pass catching and running in his own scheme, and it's definitely what they went for. So I'm really hoping that this helped you guys see what the Chiefs have behind Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who I assume will be the starter this season, as well as the majority touch getter throughout the season. If you guys have any more ideas of any videos that you want to see, Ryan and I are always open to hearing those and doing the film work to break those down for you. So again, you can catch me over at Arrowhead Guys. I'll also be here with Ryan on RGR Football. So again, I appreciate you guys' comments, and I hope you enjoyed this.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.